Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The Indian subcontinent today contains lots of countries. In the colonial era, one of these countries was British India. British India now consists of India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. It was known to the British as India, although the locals preferred to call it Hindustan. From 1857 to 1859, the Muslims and Hindus together led a rebellion which is known in British sources as the 1857 Indian Mutiny, while local sources prefer to call it the First War of Independence or the 1857 Revolution. It lasted for 1 year and 6 months. There have been questions raised on why did this rebellion took place. There were several of them. The most important were religious and other types of discrimination. The British started building churches all over Hindustan, and many Hindustanis were encouraged to convert to Christianity, and those who did received benefits from the state. The Muslims and Hindus had this feeling that the British are here to convert them to their religion. And in other offices as well, such as army and other places, the Hindustani people were often discriminated because of their origins. Take army for an example. In the army, the British officers received higher salary, they were given more respect, and often rose to great offices, higher ranks. But the local soldiers, known as the sepoys, did not get much. Their salary was less, they weren't respected much, and they were often discriminated. Second most important issue was the British exploitation of Hindustan. The British started stealing resources from Hindustan. In fact, they even stole words from our dictionaries. The word loot was actually from Hindustani languages Urdu and Hindi, and now it's in English. Apologists are going to argue that the British were the ones who built the railways of Hindustan, India, and Pakistan mainly. But that's not very true because they did build these railways, but they built them only for their own benefits. They would steal resources from the mines, use these railways to transport them to the seaports, then use seaports to send these goods all the way to England. They were never spent on the local people. Lots of Hindustani workers built these railways, but none of them was given any respect, although lots of them even died during the process. In fact, there were cards of this train labeled that there should be no dogs and Indians allowed. You can see locals were compared to dogs. That's how much discrimination they had to face. And then what triggered the royal princely families and the nobility was the doctrine of lapse. The doctrine of lapse suggested that the British would annex any princely state if its ruler died without having a son or did not manage the state properly. Now, if this ruler did not have a son, in Muslim states he would be succeeded by his distant relatives, his sons-in-law, or even sometimes his slaves. In Hindu states, he would just adopt someone from his distant family and they would succeed him. Though adoption did exist in some Muslim states, but it wasn't that popular. The British said that the adoptive descent children and all that, they could only inherit the ruler's personal property, his estates, but they will not get the title recognized by the British and they cannot rule the state, and of course they will not get their pensions. And the British also said that if the ruler was not managing his estate properly, they will annex it. So in reality, even if he did manage the estate properly, they would still annex it if they had any problems with him. This doctrine first came in the late 1840s or perhaps the early 1850s. It is still some sort of debate. It was planned for years and it was during the time of Governor General Lord Dunhouse when it finally came out. The final nail in the coffin was the cartridge issue. So basically, the British Army issued orders that from now on we're gonna use cartridges that are gonna be opened by mouth, by biting them. Now they were made of animal fats, that was a problem, and they were greased basically. Like the top layer was greased, and you had to open it by biting it. And the problem was that this grease was sometimes pig fat, which is prohibited for Muslims because pigs are dirty animals in Islam, while sometimes they were made of cow fat, and that is prohibited for Hindus because cows are sacred in Hinduism. Because of that, a Hindu officer in the Bengal army named Mangal Pandey fired the first shot at a British officer, and he said to his friends, "If we eat this," meaning to say, if we bite this, we will become infidels, so we should fight. And from then on, the rebellion raged for 1 year and 6 months. Thank you everyone for watching, and special thanks to the acknowledgements you can see on my screen.